name's Agapiou, and this is my partner Nora Camstra. And today we are going to talk to you about our project, Wildfire ProTXtion. To begin, we're going to talk about the project introduction, our approach, our assumptions, the model itself, our results, and the next steps.
We were very lucky to be able to work with Dr. Ward, who most of you guys know here in the UMS department, as our client. We also had a lot of help from Soham, who is sitting next to him, who also studies operations research. So this project has been undertaken by a couple other consultants in the past here at SMU. One of the projects had to do with a network flow diagram, which helped airfields in locations to fire outbreak in Texas. And another one had to do with a cost optimization model to minimize the cost of the fire itself. So our client's expectations from us was to be able to learn about the movement of fires in Texas as well as the aerial response systems. Our expectations for ourselves as consultants were to be able to culminate our 4 years of operations research from our studies here at SMU to find a feasible, realistic model that could be implemented and have a positive output. So all in all, our goal in this project was to understand the patterns and movements of Texas wildfires, as well as have any current fire response systems in place in order to propose a quick response system for the state of Texas that will output the number of helicopters and seats that need to be dispatched to the location of the wildfire in order to minimize the objective, which you will see that it has to do with miles burned.
Okay, so the first approach that we took, we'll be honest, at first we tried to disregard fire altogether because it's difficult. But our approach, when we first started trying to look at the model, we did the most simplistic approach possible. So if you look at the yellow circle right there, let's say that's at time 1. Fire just begins. Once it expands to the orange, and then expands to the red. It's increasing at that rate, which is represented by the arrow. So with a fire response system, that's how the fire is growing. With a fire response system in place, we would be using 2 aircrafts, helicopters and seats. Seats are single-engine aircrafters. Helicopters carry water, whereas seats carry retardant. Water can suppress flames, whereas retardant cannot suppress flames. It simply acts as a wall to protect firefighters and troops on the ground, as well as just slow down the rate of the fire. So as you can see right here, this would be a seat drop, where the retardant is laid in front of the fire where it's moving. The retardant will then slow the rate of fire, whereas this strip right here would be where a helicopter would drop water, suppressing some of the flames.
So before we even started the model, we needed a lot of information needs at the back end of the project. The first one had to do with at what point of the fire did the local fire department need to dispatch helicopters and seats. So generally, ground troops will put out the fire, but when it gets to a point, that's when it gets dispatched. Second one is a rate of spread in miles per hour for each location. We chose counties, so the rate of spread of the actual fire in each individual county. The aircraft capacities and costs, that would be helicopters and seats, and the capacities of water and the retardant. Flammability of each county. That's to say, some areas in Texas, like West Texas, they're most prone to fires, as in, let's say, Highland Park. The effectiveness of air response, this would be the amount of gallons of the helicopters and seats and how much it was able to put out the fire or slow the fire down. And then time from airfield to location. We were able to use the network diagram from the previous project for the network diagram to choose 9 airfields in the state of Texas, which are evenly spread out. And then we calculated the distance from that to 25 counties that we chose in order to have the distance and time that it would take from the helicopters and the seats to go from one location to the next. So this is how we calculated the rate of spread. This is a chart for just one individual county. Here it's the rate of spread in chains per hour. Chains is 66 feet. And then it has the acres it was burned at what percentage. We took the midpoint of the rate of spread and got the mean value with the percentage in acres to get one spread for each individual county. From that, we had it in chains per hour, and we eventually changed it to miles an hour for our model. So we did that for 25 counties, each individual one.
So spread, so we knew how fast the fire was moving in miles per hour. We also needed to understand how much the 800 gallons from a seat how it would lay out on the ground, and how much the water from a helicopter could suppress the flames. So a helicopter we chose a medium-sized helicopter holding 1,250 gallons and a seat holding 800 gallons. To be able to figure out what that would look like on the ground, we converted it to cubic inches. So I went ahead and assumed at that point that, let's say there's 1 inch of retardant or water on the ground. So that kind of reduces the cubic part just to square. So at that point then, I made the assumption that the helicopters and seats, when they dropped, the width of it is 4 feet. So by taking what we had in cubic inches, we were able to divide by 48 inches, which gave us the length of how many miles or in inches I guess, how many inches the spread of retardant and water would span, and then converted it essentially to miles. So for each helicopter that drops 1 bucket of water, it could suppress 0.09 miles of flames. For the retardant, it would cover 0.06 miles in front of the fire. For our assumptions, so assumptions was probably the most vital part of our project because of the complexity and unpredictability of fire. So we assumed that aerial responders are dispatched from the closest airfield to the county where the fire broke out. Obviously, we want to keep small fires small, so to do so, you want to get aerial support there as quickly as possible. Secondly, for time purposes within our profile, aerial aircraft, both aircrafts responded at the same speed. Helicopters generally fly around 125 miles an hour. Seats generally fly at 200 miles an hour. So we went ahead and took an average of both of those so that they would be on the same time and distance perspective. So turnaround time then is considered 2 times the amount of time it takes from one aircraft to get from the airfield to the county. Turnaround time again is just would be leaving the county after a drop, returning back to the airfield of origin, and then returning back to that county again to put down another drop. The KVDI is known as the Keach Byram Route Index. We allowed that to rate the effectiveness of aerial response. So based on the flammability of each county, suppression will affect each differently. For example, if one county has 6-foot flames, the other has 12-foot flames, a helicopter suppression on the 6-foot is going to be much different than suppression on 12-foot flames. So we use the KVDI to rank the difference of the effectiveness of aerial response. IA is the amount of fire that exists for required aerial support, so that's the amount of fire that exists when ground troops say that they would like aerial assistance and aerial support. Again, helicopters only suppress flames, and seats only affect the rate. So here's a profile that will kind of make more sense. So if that dot over at 0, that would be considered IA. That is when ground troops contact aerial responders and ask for support. The red line is the rate of spread that we had calculated. That's how much it's increasing over the time that it takes for the aerial responders to get there. From 0 to 1, that's the amount of time that it takes from the aerial responders to get from the airfield to the county where the fire is broken out. The blue line then represents a helicopter's drop. So at point 1, the aerial responders arrive. The helicopters drop, the seats drop, but only the helicopters suppress the flame. So the miles of fire decreases when the helicopters drop. When they leave, the retardant is still there to slow the rate of spread. Because it does not suppress the flames, it only slows the way the fire is spreading. So the rate becomes drastic, more horizontal as time continues on. So this continues, this profile continues until the point where the blue line drops all the way back down to IA, which is the point at which aerial response is no longer needed. So again, I was talking about the rank. Each county has a standardized rank or KVDI. 0 through 800, that discusses the flammability of each county, of the terrain, of the drought, and the fuelability. So we decided that because 6-foot flames and 12-foot flames could not be suppressed in the same way, that we needed to figure out how to address the effectiveness of the suppression. So we created a rank for each county. So for a rank 1 fire, which would be KBDI 0 through 250, helicopters would have a 95% effective rate of putting out, or a 95% effective rate of the drop, putting out those 0.09 miles of fire. And the same thing for the effectiveness of the seats. 40% of the retardant drop will work. So then, as far as our model goes, we have 2 sets, county and DR. County set all of the counties, A through Y, we had 25. And DR set the number of time periods, 0 through D. Since we didn't know what time the fire was going to be put out at, or what drop the fire would be put out at, we had set that equal to a variable as well. So then we had parameters. We had the time that it takes for aerial responders to get from each airfield to each county. We had the rate, which is the rate that was calculated for each individual county. We had the helicopter capacity, which is the maximum amount of helicopters that could go to that county. Same thing for the seats, the maximum number of seats available to respond. There was also a budget constraint. We also had, again, the suppression rate for helicopters, the suppression rate for seats, the effectiveness for seats, the effectiveness for helicopters, and lastly, IA, which is the amount of fire that exists when aerial responders are contacted. These are decision variables: the number of helicopters sent, the number of seats sent, the total time it takes for aerial responders to get from, T is the total time that it takes to contain the entire fire. So the total duration of the fire. RN is the adjusted rate after a seat is dropped retardant, so it adjusts the rate at each time T. Z is the amount of existing fire burning after the aerial responders have arrived. And B is the amount of fires burning before they have arrived. So here's a basic formulation covering all of that. Here was all the data that went into it. And now Nora will talk about the results.
So we were able to run the model on Ample, and we ran the model for every single individual county, the 25 counties that we had. Here, as you can see, X will be the number of helicopters that we dispatched in the model. Y would be the seats. Objective is the miles burnt within the time. D is the amount of drops that it had, whether the helicopters or seats. And then T is the time that the fire was burning. We had a few outliers. You can go back a minute. You can see the number-wise. We had large objectives for county A, E, and F. That had to do with the possibility that the rate of spread for those counties were quite large in regards to the suppression rate or the effectiveness of the helicopters and seats. And also some of the amount of drops, the distance, it was too large, so it couldn't keep up, and that's why we had a lot. Can you go back? So here you can see the time burnt. Most of it was within an hour, which is the distance of the airfield to the fire or the county where the fire was. It was because we were able to have constraints of 10 helicopters that the model was able to run to have the 10 helicopters or 8 with 2 seats, depending on X and Y, the objective, being able to drop it and suppress it to below the IA. Our model did not, like Ashley said, IA is the amount of fire that the aerial response is not needed anymore. So our model did not run until the fire was 0, because at IA there were no need for any resources of the aerial response. And then the objective, you can see that's possibly correlated to the time, which makes sense. The more time it burns, the more miles it burns, and you can see the outliers there as well. So all in all, our conclusions, we were very happy with what we came up with. The model was feasible, it ran, it could be implemented. implemented, which were our goals to begin with. And then Ashley will talk about just a few
So
recommendations.
recommendations. So lastly, as I said, we had to make the assumption that seats and helicopters flew at the same speed. That's obviously not realistic. So helicopters can land at much closer distances, can land pretty much anywhere to refill. So they would be getting back to the location where the fire is much quicker than the seats, who can only land at certain airfields and refill at those points. Because of that, the time index would be extremely weird. I'm not sure exactly how we can handle that, but if you wanted to improve upon this problem and this model, you could try and improve the timing accuracy of the aerial response. And lastly, the fire breakout realism. Originally, our model is set up to dispatch aerial responders from an airfield to a county where the fire breaks out. Ideally, there's not only going to be one fire at a time, there will be multiple fires breaking out at the same time. So to make it more realistic, if you could have a model that would allow multiple counties to have a fire at the same time and properly allocate resources from each of the airfields to minimize the total amount of fire burned, then that would be our next recommendation to make it any better. Questions?
All right, well, you went overtime, so we don't have much time for questions. So if the next group can get up, get ready while we take questions with this group. Any questions? So does this tell us where to put helicopters and how many to buy and things like that?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Does this tell us where to put helicopters and how many to buy?
It tells us how many to dispatch.
It tells us how many helicopters and seats to we already have a set number, we assume there is a set number of helicopters and seats at each of the 9 optimal airfields. And out of those, it would tell you which to dispatch from which airfields to which county.
And how many to surpass it.
Other questions?
Sure. Did your calculations look for the placement of the helicopters, location?
Theoretically, it would pull in from the parameter of the minimal distance of the airfield to the county, but because that was more quadratic, we made it into a linear program, we chose we found the minimal distance ourselves and inputted that. So we had that distance in the model set.
Okay.
So that's where it came from. But we did calculate that before.
Okay, thanks.